Hey guys and girls, welcome to Forgetting Walls, the podcast. This is episode 40. That's right, you heard it, 40. Here we are. It's so hard to believe that we've made it this far, but this week we conclude the sex series, part 6. Just kind of a mashup of everything we've talked about over the past few weeks. Joking around, just having a good time, trying to end on a lighter note than we did last week. We talk a little bit about Kim Davis, so if you're a supporter, hey, give us the reason why you support her. If you're not, tell us why you don't support her. You'll hear a lot from us. On the flip side, Keith has got a dirty story for you at the end. And saying all that, I just want to say up front, thank you for listening this far, liking the Facebook page, checking out the website, seeing us on Twitter and Instagram. Hey, invite a friend, but what we really would like for you to do is to share your story with us. Tell us what you've gone through dealing with Christianity and religious things. But while we're doing it, there's always one reason we're here, and that's to share our stories with you. And of course, to get down to that crazy dubstep from Bensound.
To hear this for the first time, and so this is from our hearts. The kingdom of God is for the burnouts, the broken, the broke, the drug addicts, the divorced, the HIV positive, the herpes-ridden, the hopeless, for the outcasts that have been created by the church, and for the outcasts of our society that have been created by us. The kingdom of God is for the brain damaged, the incurably ill, for the barren, the pregnant too many times, and the pregnant at the wrong time. This is for the overemployed, the underemployed, the unemployable, and the unemployed. This is for the swindled, the shoved aside, the left aside, the replaced, the incompetent, the stupid. This is for the emotionally starved and the emotionally dead. The kingdom of God is for the bigoted, the murderers, the child molesters, the brutals, the drug lords, the terrorists, the perverted, the raging alcoholics, overconsumers, the incredibly ugly, the dumb, the ignorant, the starving, the filled, and the filthy rich. The kingdom of God is for everyone, and the kingdom of God is for me.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to Forgetting Walls, the podcast. And Justin, this is episode 40. This is the Old English episode.
That's right, episode 40.
Oh my goodness, it has been let's just say a hell of a series. We're on part 6. We're going to finish this up tonight. And that was Induction from Life in Your Way off the Kingdoms CD. And we played that tonight simply to say that with everything that we've been talking about for the past 5 weeks, the people that we're speaking shouldn't be doing the things they're doing, like last week with sexual abuse, and the week 1 with having sex before marriage and virginity and purity and all those things, and the masturbation and pornography, the episode about the gay and lesbian episode, and the heterosexual and the gender, and all those things, as 4/5 of us are basically claim to be Christian. Justin, right?
That's true.
Gosh,
I still am.
Oh, it's so quiet.
I'm so worried about it. Every episode, I'm just like, really, Justin? You're that too?
But speaking from a heart that connects with God, Jesus, Christianity, all that we connect with. That song is, I guess, our message to everybody else, that in our view, in our light, in our minds, that everybody is welcome to the kingdom of God. There is a gospel-centric theme there.
Yeah, you keep saying this is not a Christian podcast, but over and over I'm like, it's pretty much a Christian podcast.
Yeah, I kind of concede to that too.
surprised if someone just listened to the past couple of episodes.
They would not know.
They would not know.
Yeah, because we didn't speak a whole lot to Christianity
I mean,
in the past couple episodes.
I mean, it's been pretty out there, but it's still been good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a Christian podcast, but because 4/5 of it are Christian people, you're going to cling to what you know. It's just going to be second nature for you.
I'm going to shoot with Keith on this
80% Christian podcast.
one. Yeah. I'm going to shoot. But it's not Christian in the sense that the podcast is saved and going to heaven, because this one is probably going down to...
That's true.
Yeah. So, but the sense that the perspective and viewpoint and worldview that we use most of the time is a Christian worldview, even if it's connected with a feminist Justin.
That's fair.
There's nothing wrong with feminism.
I didn't say it. I just said it's connected to a feminist Justin. Like we said, a lot of people look at Christianity in a negative way, and I can understand why they do, because I look at Christianity in some points negatively as well. And what we're just saying is if anybody said that you're not allowed and you're not welcomed and it's not for you, then they're a bold-faced liar, and they need to look in the mirror what they believe. This is why I do all the talking.
Mic drop.
I toned out because it doesn't apply to me.
It applies to you. It applies to everybody. Didn't you just hear the song, Kingdom of God is for you and everybody?
Yeah, but right now where I am in life, I just don't care.
It's still for you.
Everybody.
And I respect that.
And it's still for you.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
All right, I have 6
What's
bottle
everybody
caps.
looking at?
There's the first bottle cap.
All right, so who's on the podcast with us?
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's just the normal people. It's Chris, and there's Ryan, and there's Keith, and there's you. That's
Yep.
who's on the podcast tonight.
The prodigal son.
Ryan Wilson.
And we wonder why our numbers are so low.
No, you should have seen the look on his face. He almost got so upset when he just sped through it because he didn't get a chance to do his little intro.
No, he's so distressed.
Oh, my gosh. We're so unprofessional.
He got that look in a
Yes.
Pie Apollo sketch when you don't give him food that you're eating. He's like, come on, guys, just let me do it. Oh, guys.
Anyway, so the past couple of weeks, or the past few weeks, Justin, there's
Yeah.
been something on my mind and we haven't gotten to it. So we're going to
All
take
right.
this time. And I know, Justin, you didn't want to talk about it.
Is it
it's
football?
all right.
Yeah, it's football.
Okay.
So this past week, them Green Bay Packers. No,
they
Justin,
look-
we're not going to do that to you this week.
Oh man.
I really want to do a start 'em and start and sit 'em.
Yeah, that
episode.
would be fun.
Wouldn't that be great
We
fun?
should do that sometime.
But well, there's no women listening to us anyways, really.
That's true.
Well, I don't know. We got a couple.
Yeah, we do.
I know,
What are you talking about?
I
We
know
got
of
shout
at-
out to Jessica.
I know of at least
Who's
two.
been-
3.
I know of at least 3. Yeah, 3. I know of at least 3.
Anyways, there's a certain lady who comes to my mind. I won't say she's near and dear to my heart, but she has made headlines all over the United States, maybe even the world.
Is it me?
No, you're not that woman, Keith. There's a lady, I guess we could call her a lady, in Kentucky,
Yeah.
who has made big news over the past few weeks. I mean,
That's right.
such big news that even presidential candidates are fighting over bringing her out.
Yep.
It just blows my mind.
Kentucky Fried Politics.
It's more than Kentucky Fried. It's just all kinds of fried for me. Anyways, lady's named Kim Davis. I'm sure if you're listening to the podcast, you've heard, and you've probably got your opinions on what happened and saying, yay, support her or not. But it's not as much as what she did. It's just the reaction that I'm seeing that gets me the most.
Okay,
You know?
what do you mean by that?
Well, okay, so she got arrested, right?
Right.
For basically breaking a federal law.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We all agree that the United States put in a law to issue marriage license to same-sex couples.
Right.
It's no longer a state-validated thing. You can't do it state by state anymore. She decided not to do that, so she was incarcerated.
I have a side question for that before we
Yeah.
get too far into it. Did we actually pass a federal law? Because the last I heard on it was the Supreme Court just ruled that it was legal for gays to be married, not that we actually passed a law that it was legal.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was just a Supreme Court ruling, which doesn't necessarily
was
make it a law.
technically an interpretation of existing legislation.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. I didn't follow it that closely.
Yeah. Basically, it's rule.
Okay.
It's not something you can. The states can no longer say no. It is something that you have to do. It's federally mandated now. We're not going to get into that issue. We've talked about those issues before. let me ask you this question, and we all know about it, right? We all
Right.
read the stories and stuff.
Yeah.
What are you
Do
talking about?
About
There's 4 bottle caps left. You want to keep going?
Gay marriage. Got you.
Kim Davis.
Kim Davis, Kentucky.
Yeah, Kim Davis in Kentucky.
Got you.
Do you think it was, number one, right for the incarceration?
Legally, yes.
Not for the incarceration necessarily. I don't find that. Well, okay. I could understand an interpretation where she could be incarcerated for doing what she did.
How long?
More than likely, I think in that case you would see her being terminated, not incarcerated.
Okay. Terminated, not incarcerated. Justin, what about you?
Right. I think she should have been fired or removed from her position. If she couldn't fulfill her duties, like as county clerk, then she should have either quit or been removed from her position. But incarcerated, I can see why. But I think it got blown up a lot more than it should have, or that it needed to.
Yeah,
How long was
I'm
she in there
I
for?
think it was like, what, 2 weeks?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks.
It was more so, I feel like, yeah, legally incarceration was allowed, but I think
Yeah.
it was more so to send a message to anyone else that may have been thinking to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think and I'm going to go with Chris on that one. I think it was more of an example thing. Now, let me make this very valid. I don't care one way or the other if she was incarcerated. I mean, honestly, I don't care whether she was or not. I think she should have done her job, whether she thought it was right or not, because it was her job. I mean, we all have jobs to do. Sometimes we don't agree with what we're supposed to be doing, and if you don't like it, get out of the job.
And there's other ways around it, because I'm sure in a county that size in Kentucky, there's not only one clerk that can issue licenses. If she's uncomfortable with it, have someone else
that's already
that-
happened.
have someone else do it for them.
I mean, if she was the clerk of court for the county, a lot of times they'll only have one elected clerk of court. But
Well, but
I mean,
yeah, but I read a story like after she was, and this is the thing, she wasn't terminated. She went back to work.
Right.
Yeah, so then it was definitely an example thing, because if she's not terminated,
Yeah, she went back to work, and I read a story where the other person that works in that office was issuing them while she was there, and of course she did not say anything about it after that point. But so that's the story. If you don't know, catch you up, Kim Davis. That's all it is. So here's the funny thing. So like on certain days that I'm sitting and I'm looking at the computer, I'll do a little Facebook trolling and just kind of roll through and see what's going on. And I come across the video of her coming out of the jailhouse with Mike Huckabee to Eye of the Tiger, which is the most asinine thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry. People don't like me. I don't care. It's just weird that you're making this. I mean, she's coming out of a jail for a couple of weeks because she broke a law or she didn't do her job and they decided to put her in jail for it. And now there's this big hoodoo about Miss Kim Davis with Mike Huckabee. And then, I guess Ted Cruz was there too, but he got ousted by Mike Huckabee's. I mean, it was a big presidential candidate thing. It was weird. So I'm reading and then I'm like, okay, so that was really weird. I don't have no thoughts about it one way or the other. And then I'll look at the comments. At first you see who posted it. And then you read under it. And then it's like, okay. Somebody shares the story, and their post or their tagline or caption to it is, "Give God the glory." And I'm thinking to myself,
give God,
Gonna be good.
give God the glory of a federal crime and just being...
No, that she was released and she was doing what she thought God wanted her to do. She was following God by denying marriage license.
And then she said that a lot. I was
Yeah.
reading some of the articles just now, but because I had no idea this is happening. But that she, just talking about this is for God and this stuff like that. That's
Right.
really funny. But yeah.
But and I'm like, really, give God the glory for that. I was like, okay, so whatever you want. And then, it ensues like, amen, and hallelujah that she was doing what God told her to, and she should do this, and you should never, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, is this how we want to send the message of Christianity and love and gospel to people in that sense through rebelling against the system that is put in place? And then of course you get a lot of the, what is it, Romans 13, subject to authority. So you got people blowing down on that, and then it's like, but you only have to subject or
Submit.
thank you, submit to your authorities if it's glorifying to God. But if it's not glorifying to God, then it's not, then the devil did it.
So there's
what?
The devil did it.
the devil put him in place, but then again,
That
it
darn
says
devil.
then God's not in control. So it's all this Christianity stuff going on that's going back and forth, and then there's the one lone person who's a friend on their page that says, what she did was wrong and she should have been punished for it. You would want anybody else punished for things when they did something wrong against the law. Why not her? It's like, well, because it's against God. So my thing is that should we as Christians use this as a give God the glory type of thing, or should we be very subjective
Well,
in how we put ourselves out there and align ourselves with certain actions and personas that are being publicized out there right now?
Well, let me start with asking a question. From when I was, going to church, the one thing I learned that was the most important is, what is God? That's where you guys answer.
That's a big
Wow.
question.
That's a
I know. I mean, you like, what is God? And I'm like,
here?
All right. It's a 4-letter word that we all use sometimes to bastardize other things. God is
he means love.
love.
Oh,
God is
I was
love. Okay.
Y-H.
Wow, you guys.
You're asking like a religious studies major, a theology major.
Let's go back to Sunday school here, y'all. Let's go back to Sunday school.
I hate Sunday
Jesus.
school.
Yes, God is Jesus. That's not wrong.
It's like that Gunger song that
but-
gets on my nerves. No offense to anyone who likes that song, but
Hey, now.
it does get on my nerves.
Which song is that?
God is love. God is love.
Not mad about that tangent. But the thing is, okay, she did what she thought was right, but at the same time, it's not necessarily promoting a Christianly, godly love onto a group of people. Because from what I understand is, even if you don't agree with it, it's not your place to judge or persecute due to sin. You're supposed to love them in their sin. And I remember when I was starting a job that I absolutely hated, one thing you told me, Keith, was to, even though you hate it, do all things that you do in the glory of God. So, I don't know if that's necessarily the right way she went about it. Because honestly, she should have been like, I don't agree with this, but I'm going to love you the way that I am loved. And just go through with it and do my job.
I kind of agree with you in a way, but I also would point out that in certain circumstances, I don't think that it would be bad to not do what you're asked of.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
I mean, I don't think... I think she was misguided in what she did, but I don't think doing what she did would necessarily be wrong under the right circumstances. I do think she went about it the wrong way. Quite frankly, I think she should have quit if she was that serious about it.
Yeah.
Well, she said, I just read that in the article. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Keith.
No, go ahead. That
That
was
when she got out of jail or prison, that she asked for everything to be removed from the list. All these things, and I don't know how that works. I don't know if she can just up and quit like that.
What list are you talking about?
Like, I'll pull up. But she asked for her name, I guess, under the... Keith, do you know what I'm talking about?
Like the notary for these licenses? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. When Davis returned to work one week ago, she then said that she wanted her name and title removed from the licenses being... Oh, okay, that's what she asked. I'm sorry, guys. I totally misread that. Licenses being issued by her office. So she didn't want her name on them. But she's
any gay marriage license, she didn't want her name attached to it. Because, I mean, in that system of logic, it makes sense. Because if something is going through like that you don't agree with or doesn't fit within your ideological or religious framework, it's seen as you condoning sin. If you let these things pass, then you're sort of abetting and letting people live in sin. And so I see where her logic came in. Not that I agree with it, but I definitely see where she came from. But I'm kind of with Keith. I think she either should have either quit her job but then, and that's how you get, on the, far right, with the Mike Huckabee types and all those, her saying that she's standing up for religious liberty and that, a government can't tell a person what to do about their religion because it impedes on the First Amendment, even though that's not really what the First Amendment is meant to protect.
Exactly. Well, and I think that goes back to a few, if we want to look back over 40 episodes, but we're not. When we go back to when we were talking about the SCOTUS ruling and we talked about church and state, you cannot promote a government institution cannot promote a religious system, and her being in a government role, kind of, not that she can't practice her religion on her own and do those things, but that can't interfere with her work in the government. So that was my thing. It is, I mean, even if, let's just say that the SCOTUS ruling is not technically law and Kentucky doesn't observe it as a law, it doesn't matter. Supreme Court still made a ruling. So in that ruling, she's serving, something that's basically mandated through a federal ruling, right? And she is a part of the government, so no part of her religion can really play into what she's doing there. I mean, it can guide her perspectives and guide her worldview, but she can't place a religious, mandate saying, I'm not going to do my job for the government because it afflicts with me religiously. Then you're literally in the wrong line of work, I think. And that's just my understanding of how the real separation of church and state works.
Yeah. I
mean, if we haven't learned enough from the Freedom from Religion Foundation yet, that you cannot promote any type of religious anything from a government or public venue, and this is one of those venues.
But she had to see this coming, though, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what order Kentucky kind of came into that with the whole ruling.
It was at one time, bam, across the states.
Oh, okay. So I have no idea. I have no concept of that stuff, but. I mean, she had to see that coming, you know what I mean? And just being like, well, I'm just not going to do this,
No, right. And she did see it coming because across the board, when this ruling, and I know we're going back to the ruling or whatever, but when it was in court, everyone, a lot of people on and I'm not meaning to stereotype, but on the fundamentalist Christian right, a lot of people said that if this thing did pass, then that would mean that Christians would start being persecuted for their faith, and that if you refuse to marry gay couples, then you'd be thrown in jail. And then when this happened, that was the rallying call that was like, see, we told you this was going to happen. That someone stood up for their faith and is being persecuted and thrown in jail because they won't condone the sinful society we live in.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know. I mean, I see, like, between you and Justin and stuff like that, or Keith and Justin, I see how that, I see, what she was thinking and stuff, but I don't know. Like, being in that kind of position in your job and to deal with, licenses and laws and regulations, they're just, you had to know you were something severe was going to come from that. You weren't just going to be like reprimanded or something like that. Like, do you think she?
Right, but blessed are those who were persecuted for my name's sake.
I just wonder if like that was something that was in the forefront of her mind, like knowing that this might, you know what I mean?
Oh, most likely
be out there.
See, and I want to read a comment that I was scrolling through some of the Facebook pages for Kim Davis supporters and stuff. And this is my problem with it. And I was talking about the backlash and the opinions and people subjugating their dare I say backwood thoughts out there in open. So I'm going to read this nice, well-written comment. Are you ready? I'm going to leave out the name so nobody gets offended because I'm sure they're listening to us. But so-and-so, you are spelled U-R, not U-Y-O-U-A-R-E, but you are. I mean, we're talking Facebook, not Twitter here, so you can spell these things out.
We're talking text speech.
Yeah.
Like 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you are probably a lesbian, and of course you think it's okay. But God does not condemn. Oh, man, I'm sorry. Let me back up. But God does condemn that sickness. Read ABT, Sodom, and Gomorrah. And only 5 sicko judges filed on it and pushed it through. It's not in the Constitution. And Mr. Huckabee has a wife, and she is a woman, like in God's law. I think I read it right, too. But it's like, it's a blatant attack to somebody who was making a point about the Constitution, saying, we're talking about what the Constitution says and doesn't say. And I was kind of back reading on it. But the things that people get behind, you know what I'm saying? The things that people push through. And they're like, well, it's God, and God's, like Chris said, God's love, and we're Christians and we love everybody. But then you post comments like this, and you support things like this, and you get behind things like this, which
you have to be.
I'm just dying over here because that's obviously a person filled with hatred. Because if there's one thing I learned in society, it's the first thing that you start your statement off with is your biggest pet peeve. And he attacks them first with, well, obviously you're a lesbian. Well, that's his big thing right there. He doesn't care what they think. He's just going to assume anyone that agrees or disagrees with what Kim Davis did is obviously homosexual. And that's where his fear plays in. He doesn't care. He's just afraid and angry.
It's just, but that's the whole thing. It's like 650 people liked the idea that, the hashtag I'm with Kim rally with presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. Let me ask you, Keith, you're a fairly conservative person. And I'm sure do you vote Libertarian or Republican?
I vote candidate to candidate, so I have a mixed ticket usually when I vote.
So when you see things like this, and you see a candidate like Mike Huckabee, obviously out there because he's a person who identifies with Christianity, we know that, and he's standing in a place like this. How do you feel about a politician who is getting out there like that?
It depends. It's not my favorite thing. I'm not a big fan of Mike Huckabee, but it's more it has more to do with some of his other views.
I agree.
Not as much these, but it can get a little aggravating at times. I'd rather have a candidate that just kind of went along with things and just kind of just stood where he is.
Stuck to the politics of life and not necessarily bring religion into politics.
Well, even if they want to bring religion into politics, I can be okay with it at times, but my point is, why did he put himself out there in this situation?
Yeah.
Because he's pandering to his voter base.
That's
right.
Exactly
and
right.
It kind of aggravates me, though, when people do that to this extent.
No, yeah, I agree.
Well,
it's for show. For me, I just feel it's a show.
Why, and I don't mean to get political in a bad way here, but that's what bugs the heck out of me with another guy who is very, very much opposite of Mike Huckabee. And I don't mean to offend anybody who might like this guy, but Al Sharpton, he annoys the heck out of me because all he does is follows around people who fit his agenda and who can help build his name up. And I feel like that's what Mike Huckabee's doing here, is he's following someone around who can help build his name up.
Well, of course, because if you can get all the diehard conservatives on your side, which is going to fail, because obviously through the last two elections, we see that diehard conservatism is not going to get you voted in office.
Yeah, that's true.
And the tide is turning. I'm not saying we'll see an atheist president in the next 4 elections, but it's not too far off, I believe.
It could happen.
Yeah.
I don't think for a while, but
no, that's
we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, we talked about that before, but I'm saying, but when you have things like this, like Kim Davis, and my thing is, it's less about Huckabee, which I just wanted to ask you that question because I had to put that out real quick because I feel all this is a show. And what did we talk about? Was it last week or the week before last? The loudest are usually the people who are the most wrong.
That was 2 weeks ago. We're talking about the feminism with people that just they're always the ones that are persecuting everyone else. They're not real feminists. They're just trying to put on a show.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like the louder you see things and the louder people are, it's just I think it's less truth and less honesty in it. It's just more to get your 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. If someone's asked a question and they respond to that honestly and get slammed for it, I don't really like that. But when someone seeks the attention in this case, they're asking for it whenever they get.
In my opinion, when that kind of situation is, they're trying to go for the people that don't even pay attention to politics. They're just trying to see whose name will they remember when it comes time for the ballot.
Yep.
And that's what they'll be like, oh, well, I remember this guy's name. He must have done a lot of good things, so I'm going to vote for him.
Which, it's interesting with Mike Huckabee because he's not really high in any polls right now.
So really, it's he's doing whatever he can to get up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know it's not really a relevant and hot topic anymore, but it's just something I wanted to bring up because I think if we're going to promote talking people are people and we got to love everybody, this is one of those times where Christianity, the religion, the quote unquote religion that is supposed to love everybody, is doing a very bad job at that. And that's my problem. That's our problem. I don't know if it's everybody's problem here that's in this group, but that's definitely my problem. And that's why me and Justin kind of got into this Forgetting Walls thing, is because it was just, look, I don't love everybody. I can admit that. but I'm trying to work through those things, you know. And most of the
We're
people,
trying.
look, the people I really don't love is the people who cut me off in traffic.
Yeah, but you haven't killed them either, so you're off to a good start.
Yeah, I guess. But, you know, speaking to that, I just, you know, I want to remind you, if you listen, and I don't care if you're a Kim Davis supporter or not, that's your prerogative. But think about everything that you say and how you interact with people and how that looks, because, you know, I'm not mistaken, but I think, you know, there's a couple of places in the Bible that speaks to, you know, about loving others. And if you're not loving others, you're really not reflecting on God properly. And, you know, if he says, you know, they'll know you by your love and they'll know me by, you know, my love. And you're kind of killing it. Like, and that's not the positive killing it either. You're just killing it off. It's not good. And we need to figure out how to change that. And hopefully just thinking about what you say and before what you post things on Facebook, you know.
Pick your battles.
Don't even pick your battles. I mean,
Just think before you speak or type. You know, like I just, you know, like some of the comments and stuff like this, and the fact that it went so, you know, media crazy that there was a hashtag behind it, and there's like a, you know, support group. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I mean, she's just a lady. Go
Dude,
ahead.
there was a media craze and a hashtag behind a kid that brought a clock to school. Of
Yeah,
course
I
it's
was going to bring that up,
Of
but
course, it's going to be behind someone that did something for a religious purpose.
True.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I saw that as well.
yeah,
I think
I don't know
everyone
if you
saw that.
want to get into that, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
We need. I'll tell you what. We'll table this topic for now, and we'll get back to it at another time. But because we want to get into the meat potatoes episode 40 tonight, so stick around with us, and we'll be back in a moment.
We both know you can't plan something. I just realized this takes more than plans to feel like this. If only we could know what we were getting into, and just what we would both mean to the other. I don't think I'll get much sleep tonight.
And that was the Ivory Line with We Both Know, just a band that is kind of liked by a few people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, Ryan recommended that to us
yeah,
tonight.
absolutely. Ryan sent that over to us and said, "Hey, we need to play this," and that was pretty good. I enjoy it though. You know, that whole set and genre is just it's enjoyable.
Yeah. Yep. I like him a lot. Keith knows him. I've been listening to him for a long time. A couple of years, right, Keith?
Yeah, man. They were actually what was that released in like 07?
2008.
08?
Yeah, that was 2008.
Been around a while.
That kind of space. What was the name of that band again?
Ivory Line.
Ivory Line. Thank you.
Yes, Ivory Line. So tonight, episode 40, we are concluding the sex series.
Yes.
Because we cannot conclude the sex series after last week's episode.
Yeah, it was a bit of a depressing note. So we decided to have one last episode to kind of wrap things up and be able to discuss any kind of loose ends that we feel like we left on any of the other episodes and just see where this conversation goes.
I want to start with just a general oversight of sex itself, okay?
Okay.
I think we talked about sex in different formats through the series. But we didn't. I think we missed one thing, because if we go all the way back to the first episode, we talked a lot about like abstinence training and you know, safe sex and, you know, a little bit about purity and virginity, but we never talked about like sex. We never like just say. And Keith's eyes just got big, and I love it. but what I'm saying is,
Oh, there, fella.
and Keith won't be able to add a lot to this. No.
Ain't that the truth?
But when we talked about sex, we never just said, you know, we never gave any real opinions on, you know, like Christians say, well, wait till you're married, you know,
right.
and that's something else I want to jump into just a little bit in a minute. Don't let me forget to talk about the marriage issue, but
okay.
but we talk about sex, and I'm like, everybody makes it out, and we kind of hit it a little bit here and there, but everybody makes it out to be this great thing after you're married, but it's such a terrible thing. Oh my gosh, sex is evil. Don't do it. But when you get married, it's all flowers and, dandelions and whatever else nice, puppy dog tails and sugar and stuff, whatever that.
That sounds like the recipe for a witch's cauldron. That's not good things.
Yeah, I think
That's the,
Puppy Dog Tales was the boys, which was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Okay.
the Rowdy
I thought that was a
Rough Boys.
Labyrinth reference from Snakes and Tails and Puppy Dog Tales.
It's sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. What is
Snakes
it?
and Snails and
Snakes,
Puppy Dog
yeah.
Tales.
That's what little boys are made of.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I'm just trying to think of, good stuff, and I guess I messed it up.
Yep, Puppy Dog Tales without the puppy dog. That's a good thing.
Well, I don't know.
But no, I
Anyways.
totally know what you mean, because I think I brought that up earlier, how it almost sends a mixed message to people who are single that, before you get married, it's totally, you're supposed to be non-sexual, like any thought of any kind of sexuality is bad, negative, dirty, anything like that. And then right after you get married, you're supposed to flip that switch to be like a totally sexual being.
Yeah, and how do we do that? I mean, are churches offering sex training?
Chastity belts.
Chastity belts.
Chastity belts.
That's not going to work either. That'll just end up hurting you. Welcome to the show, people. I'm just thinking to myself, it's just one of those things that it's like conservative Christianity tries to put this label on something that honestly, you can't label. You can't throw, well, sex is evil. Well, sex technically isn't evil because, again, it's an amoral thing. I mean, you can make it evil. A person can make something evil.
Right.
Money in itself is not evil, but it's the way a person uses it or it goes after it can be evil.
Right.
So sex in itself is not an evil thing.
Yeah, it's not evil. It's not technically good either.
Well, it's good for one thing.
Yeah, but
I mean, you can't have kids without having sex.
It has no intrinsic moral value.
No, it doesn't. One way or the other, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But but the church puts this light on it, like sex bad, sex bad, sex bad, and then it's like, but in the confines of marriage, it's beautiful. And I'm like, I guess if you're doing it right, but
Well, that's something we never talked about, was that sometimes the stuff you think about and that goes into sex pre-marriage, you bring into
yeah.
Yes.
after marriage into
Right.
sex, and that can make it not good and
Well, yeah.
not as glorious and whatever it is. Because like every episode we talked about, like the pornographic episode and all that other stuff, like you bring that stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Pornographic episode.
I didn't listen to that one.
You were there.
Yeah, you're right. Like pornography, that gets into your mind, and that kind of trickles into your sex life with your partner and stuff, and it affects you. It does. But the problem is I think that it's if it was talked about honestly and not just from the standpoint of like, if you have sex, you're going to hell, and if you have sex before you're married, you're just a chewed up piece of gum and you're no good to anybody. And I'm like, it's the wrong message to be sending. And I just want to say that when we talk about sex is great.
Yeah.
Keith, I know you don't know yet, but one day you will, and you'll know it.
After like the 30th try, you'll know it.
Is it?
It is.
Didn't take that many tries.
Well, let's just say this. You could live without it, but why try?
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Okay. So, I mean...
So what was your point that you want to get to about marriage? Or was that
Yeah,
it?
is there a point here?
yes. Well, that was separate. I was just saying I wanted to talk about sex, that it's not such a bad thing that the church is
Right.
making it out to be.
Yeah.
But marriage, I'm tired of seeing, and I think Robbie sent a post over to us on the Facebook page, not the page, but the group. He was talking about a girl who's like, I can wait for marriage because it seems like the church is putting such pressure on people. Like, your life starts when you get married. There's this whole thing that marriage is this life starter, this kicker after you, like, high school and then college, and then now it's time to get married, and then your life starts again, or it starts over. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that concept, and I was thinking, do we put too much pressure, especially in the Christian world, on this concept of marriage, that it has to be something you do in your life? Because if not, then your life really isn't fulfilled.
I would say there's pressure on everyone in the world because I don't really live in the Christian world, and if anyone that knows me, that's one thing I've been waiting for the last 6 years.
But that's personally, I think that's something that's personally a part of you, though.
But it's only been a part of me because I was raised in an environment where I felt like the only way I could be happy and actually start my life is if I found someone to share with it. And that was based on the way I was raised and what I've been exposed to, because that's what the world teaches you.
Right, and I feel like there's this almost this sort of expectation, like after you turn 18, every time you come home from college or whatever, the first question, so have you found yourself a boy or a girl?
Not in my household.
But I'm saying a lot of experience that I've heard people my age say is that that's a pressure that's being put on them is, to find someone and to, get engaged and married really soon after really they leave the house. So,
well, do you find that more in context of Christian homes or secular homes?
Yes, absolutely. I know there's most people that I know that have that expectation, are Christian, and it comes with the fact that I've heard people say this. Well, do you want them to be having sex outside of marriage, or go ahead and get married? And do you want them to be living in sin, or for them to go ahead and get married? So that's their argument for getting married younger.
That definitely plays a part into it, but I don't think it's really a Christian concept exactly. I mean, because when you look at the rest of the world away from the United States, the most common situations that you find people getting pressured to be married at a young age and having a lot of intense pressure are not related to Christianity.
Yeah.
They're either related to another religion or another cultural system.
Yeah, but you're more talking like arranged type of marriages, though, right?
Well, sometimes, but it's not always arranged. I mean, you have the sort of traditional Indian system where, that's arranged marriages, and they are very highly pressured. But even in a lot of other countries, there's still a lot of pressure.
Well, I want to go back because I don't want to get into everybody outside the Christian world, because I was just thinking it from a Christian perspective. Like, I want you to think about, and Chris can make all the gestures he wants. It's not about that. I was just thinking from the point of
I was teasing, man.
I know. But I was thinking about the point, like, you think about pastors and youth pastors and deacons and all these people. There's this, like, you can't be good at this if you're not married. And I understand a lot of the reasoning sometimes behind it, but
wait, good at what?
Being a pastor.
Oh, okay.
Being in ministry.
Yeah, being in ministry. That there's always this pressure of, okay, you've got to be married. Okay, ladies, find you a good husband and a good Christian man and get married and, and then raise a family. But what if that's not your goal, but yet, you want to be in ministry? Well, you might just want to be a Catholic priest because then you don't have any pressure of that. But, I'm dead serious. Legitimately. But, in the Protestant religions, it's pretty much, you can't really do ministry healthy if you're not married.
Well, I would disagree with that nowadays. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, but I know one of the most conservative Baptist churches I know of has a pastor who's unmarried, young unmarried guy, and no one.
It's very rare.
Yeah. I would say it's rare, but I mean, it's pretty rare to see Christians over the age of 30 that aren't married anyway. So,
but I feel like it's preventive, like even with younger people all the way up to the deacons and the pastors and the youth pastors. Like you were saying, there's reasons behind it, and I think that's why maybe parents push it on their kids, like, hey, daughter, go find you a good Christian man to take care of you, kind of thing, and now your life can start because you can whatever.
Justin loves hearing that.
Yeah, doesn't that sound great?
Oh yeah,
because they can just take care of them and they can just cook and clean.
Why can't they just take care of themselves?
I'm just waiting for I saw the lava boiling, but
I was just wondering that do we place too much importance on getting married, even if it's young, but just you have to get married? Do you think there's too much importance placed on that?
Absolutely, because there's people in the world that honestly won't get married. It just won't happen for them, and they'll feel like they haven't accomplished something in their life because they haven't done that. And it's a really crappy thing to put on people.
Yeah, I see that. Like, if you're not married by the time you're 30, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like there's a good and bad option. Like if you get married, it's good. If you don't, it's like what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's right.
Like you're like something's wrong with you or something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. And it's like I forget what
And then in those situations, especially your family likes to pull out the baggage. It's like, yeah, well, if you wouldn't have done this, this, and this when you were younger, you probably would be married by now.
Yeah, I heard that.
What's the context here, though?
The context,
Are we discussing it in the context of sex, or are we discussing it in the context of marriage in general?
marriage in general.
Oh, okay, then there's probably too much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, this part is not about sex. It just for some reason it just hit me about marriage because we didn't start the sex series with marriage in general, but we did lead into it with a marriage episode, and it just made me want to go back and talk about it. And I'm like, it just blows my mind that do we? Because I mean, I look at my kids and my oldest Ryan, who is here, he is married, but there was. But there was no pressure on him to get married. Matter of fact, we had lengthy talks about are you sure you're ready for this? Is this the step in your life you want to take? I mean, we were dead serious about those things. There wasn't any pressure to it. And my other three, I am not pressuring them to get married. Matter of fact, I want them to wait as long as they can. And especially my girls to never get married.
I think what I was going to continue to say is that we should see each option, like show marriage of why, like don't push it, but just show like see how this could be beneficial. Do you see why this could help? Because all these reasons, this is why.
Yeah.
But don't be like, this is what you have to do, and not getting married is bad.
And I understand where Keith was coming from about the context, whether it was in the context of sex or just marriage in general, because I understand where you're coming from with sex. And a Christian point of view, we want you to be married if you're doing it.
And I'd also like to point out that pressure isn't really a black and white thing.
We discussed that last week.
We did.
Because pressure is a thing. You can be encouraging someone to do something because you think it's good, and all of a sudden they feel pressured. Just like what Ryan was saying, marriage can be very beneficial. Well, oh crap, now I feel pressured to be married. So it's not, most of the time it's not, you really should get married right now.
Right.
That's rare. That rarely happens nowadays. Now it does happen.
Yeah.
But I don't hear that a lot anymore. I think it's more of people see other people being married, and they see, and this is the big thing, they see movies, and they see
Let's not talk about
and they
movies.
read books, and they're like, wow, this is really something I want.
Nice.
So
this is so
they
great.
feel
And then they
pressured
get
for
married and
that.
they go, where's all this greatness that marriage is supposed to be?
Wait, guys, what's a book?
Justin, you want to tell them what a book is?
Okay, so a book.
That's not a
It's this
book. Don't hold up a
wonderful
book.
thing.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things. But sex, where are we going to go from here? I mean, we talked about masturbation a little bit, and we got into some heated topics on masturbation.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to go back and revisit that just for a second? And
I mean,
Keith-
honestly, I feel like it just boils down to
Keith is like, I don't want to ever talk about masturbation
I think we covered
again.
that pretty thoroughly.
Are you sure?
I don't know. You may be the subject matter expert on this one.
I think we beat it to death.
Too much of that is happening. Too much.
Look,
Just like we said, like with the baggage and stuff like that. Like seriously,
yeah.
a lot comes with it.
Look, I'm just going to say this: that masturbation is okay
Yeah. I feel like it's the kind of thing where it depends on the person and their convictions.
if you're doing it with your wife.
Well, those of us that ain't married don't feel bad. It really depends on the person.
Don't smack those flying monkeys because it's dangerous.
Shave those palms.
But something about pornography, though, that I was thinking about too is that we were looking at how it objectified women and the dangerous
Right.
nature of it and where it can lead. I was thinking that we were talking about in the last episode about sexual abuse and raising awareness for those who are like that could potentially commit these crimes, like the date rapes and things like that. And do you think if we spend a little bit more time in positively awareing people about how it affects others around the world, like when we talked about sex trafficking and things like that, if we spend a little more time, saying, look, these clicks, these monies, these advertisement, a lot of this goes to these things that, technically you think are disgusting and wrong. Do you think that would be a better benefit?
I think it would deter those 12% websites and stuff like that. Or not deter them, but deter maybe those giving them their money.
Wait, I might have missed something here. 12% websites?
Are we talking about
The
what are we
12%
talking about
of
now?
all websites are pornographic.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Gotcha.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we're talking about porn as it relates to what exactly?
Well, you know that a lot of people used in these pornographic videos and sites and stuff are not voluntary.
Oh, okay, I get you.
That the people that are being hurt by it, because you know, you think the average person that goes on a porn site, the average dude that goes on a porn site, you know what he's going in there for? He's going to rub one out, you know, and that's his whole point of it. You know, this is, you know, I don't have a girl, and this is what I want to do. That was so bad, and and you get to that point, but you never think about, you know, really what it affects or who it is affecting on the backside. You think, well, all these people are voluntary. They're doing this for money and this, that, and the other, but they never realize that, you know, there's truckloads of girls and young girls and women who have been, you know, abducted, and they're being forced to do these things. And you think, oh, well, you know, this is just all fun, but it's really not, you know, to bring the darker side of it to light. And you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of that in America. I mean, one of the countries in the world that could probably put more focus on that, it doesn't put any on it.
Yeah, I think if they did it just as well as they if we could get people to think like they do when they think cigarettes, they think cancer. You know what I'm saying? Or they, you know, if they could do it as well as they propaganda that, the same way they do, like, you know, porn, and relate it to all the troubles and the girls and the sex trafficking. I mean, it would be a deterrent. Like, it would be significant.
I mean, you got to know that it's not something that people don't know. I mean, people know about this. Yeah. Do you think they hide it because there's so much money in it?
Exactly. It's exactly what it is.
But it's just, like I'm saying, I mean, you guys say that, and I'm just like, it's identical.
Okay, well, you related it. You related it to, no, but you related it to tobacco.
Yeah.
How many times have they put the cancer labels on tobacco? And yet, even though less people smoke, it's still making more money now than it did in the 70s when they first started putting those labels on.
Yeah, I mean, I see
so
what you're saying.
Even if they were to make that connection, I'm
I
not
still
saying
think there would be a deterrent. I
there would be a deterrent,
because I mean,
but
it's so hard for people to go from to think that. I mean, to correlate that so well. Because I mean, no one gets on a porn site and automatically.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. I smoke.
Yeah.
I smoke every day. I'm like, you know what? This one could give me cancer.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
At no point in time for people that are addicted to masturbation or be like, you know what? That girl not being doing it willingly. I'm just not going to do it today.
I think I'm going to bank. I don't know about Justin. I want you to chime in too. But what you said is, I'm looking at this pack of cigarettes, right?
Yep.
And I'm getting ready to smoke, and it may give me cancer. I don't care, but I'm thinking, how many people can I deter if there's a lot of propaganda being populated saying, you know, let's just say there we can figure out a percentage of people that are on pornographic websites that are there involuntarily because they've been abducted.
Okay.
And that you put that in your mind. Now you're thinking, so every time I click and they get $1, I am putting revenue in their pocket for them to continue to hurt people. So at this point you have to say, well, it's not about myself. Hopefully there's a sense of, you know,
say it.
Morality. Inside somebody saying, I don't want to hurt somebody else. But then again, maybe we just know people are as evil as people are. And
do you want to go first, Justin?
Change. Yeah, but I would kind of side with Chris on this issue because, I mean, we talked about earlier, we're not exactly thinking 100% rationally when we're going to go visit a porn site. And when we click on that, and if that connection were to be made, it's not like, I mean, that could trigger something in our minds, the rational, and be able to stop. But I think for most people, it would be something that could easily kind of be blocked out, at least for the moment, because I think that the sexual drive would be greater in that moment.
I have 2 points to make on that, and this is going to be cynical, but I just want to point out that, yeah, I do agree. I wish there was a way, and I do agree with Ryan. We should find deterrents to make these things stop. But the way that we're going about it's not right. Because one,
I just don't think there's enough. That's
what I'm saying.
There's none.
Enough.
There needs to be more of an effort because one, if you think about, there's people in the world that are sex addicts.
Yeah.
Like there's people that are addicted to smoking. No matter what, you can know every day it's going to kill me. But the thing is, if you don't care if it's going to hurt you, why are you going to care about someone else? Because even though we hope for the best in people, we all have kind of agreed at one point that people are inherently evil.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, we just talked about this last podcast when we came to the point that nothing can really stop somebody from doing what they want when they're in that moment. And I agree with you there, Justin, and both of you. But like when you're not in that moment, and afterwards and stuff like that, I feel like if it's as broadcasted, and I'll just keep saying it, and I don't mean to tie it so closely to cigarettes or anything like that, but just I see there's been a change.
Yeah.
Whether it be up or down or not, it's so much more broadcasted, and people literally correlate cigarettes, smokers, not smokers, with cancer. If people correlated porn with that, like, bam, they thought about that, and they thought about
what would be the best thing?
Stuff, it would be so different.
You know what helps cigarettes a lot? When they added a filter to it. So what would really help? If they could find a way to find the filter for porn.
There is no filter for porn.
But what I'm saying is that they could find a way to, I know this will never happen, federally regulate these kind of things.
No, it's well,
because then only things that are federally regulated could be in the system, and that would be things that are paid jobs that are voluntary.
Yeah,
if that was a possibility, that would be the best case scenario. But when is the government going to ever federally regulate porn?
That pulls too much into censorship. Because what if the website's hosted in another country? So
exactly.
But I think the issue is it doesn't matter what you do, even if you try to place a certain type of propaganda against pornography. All it's going to do, the industry is just going to rebut that by taking advantage of it. So when you try to associate porn with people who have been pulled into it against their will, the major companies are just going to say, hey, let's slap a label on it that shows that all of our actors are doing it totally willingly.
Exactly.
They're well compensated. And then it's just going to grow and grow.
I noticed... Yeah, because there was the big thing when it's like, we don't know if the girls are underage. So every website's like 18 and plus, 18 and plus. That's the thing. So it's like, I see what you're saying there. But let me say this. I'm not trying to say, this is my thing. We're never going to regulate porn sites. That's not an issue. That's not a thing. We're not. And I understand where you're saying we're going to rebut this. But if you do, okay. I wish I could find it, and maybe what I'll do is I'll research it and find the commercial. But they did a commercial about sex slavery and sex trafficking in America, and they had this video where it started out, and they showed this guy throwing this girl into the back of a semi truck, and then you see inside the semi truck these used dirty mattresses and all these girls in there, and it's kind of they're talking through it. I can't remember everything they're saying, but all of a sudden it's now driving through a city, and you see all these people looking at this truck, and you don't realize that this truck, it was set up with clear glass on each side of it. So what they're doing, they're driving this truck through the city, and there is either a sign or there is something, people speaking about it. This many girls will be sold and used through sex trafficking, and it was at like the NCAA Final Four in a major city. It was at a sporting event where more girls are used and sold, and it is just great. And it's like, nobody knows that. And this is my point. This is one of those things where awareness has never been raised. This is one of these areas where an industry has never been targeted for the negative things. We talk about the money that's being used, and we talk about how it breaks up families, but we never get into the dirty, dirty details of it. You never hear it. I mean, you hear about it on the backside where people like us really talk about it, but it's not something that's national. It's not something that's publicized heavily unless you're in those circles, kind of like we are. And that's my thing. What if, not about regulating, not about filtering, not about any of that, and I understand where all of y'all coming from on it, but just promoting or publicizing, these are the things that are really going on. These are the things that are happening. And it's not like your porn industry in Las Vegas where, people are making, I guess good money at it. I don't know, but they're willingly doing it. But whereas these out of country websites that are doing these things illegal, and they're promoting these things done with people who have been abducted and kidnapped and things of that nature, putting realism to it, do you think that at least, and like Ron said, we can't kill the ones who are in the moment, who's got their minds made up, but the ones who, are just your average porn users that are not, they're addicted. Like we talked about, we're never going to kill the whole thing about rape, and sexual abuse for those who got their minds made up. But for those who are going on a date, and realize that they're going a little too far, and they think back in their mind that, they still have some rational sense about them before they get to that moment and maintain their thought. Do you think that would help us in deterring more people from at least going to these places that they know that they shouldn't be at, like the ones who are promoting the rape sites and things like that?
I think it'll help, but unfortunately, I don't think it'll help much because it's too easy to distance yourself from it. When you're there with a person and you realize what you're doing and you have physical contact with them and you're face to face with them, I think it's easier to pull back than it is when you are
Not in control.
when you're not in close proximity to a person. It's a different time. It's a recorded video. It's
Right.
It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah,
I get
people
what you're
go
saying.
back to the rationale. Who's it hurting?
Yeah.
It's not hurting anyone that I'm, watching these pixels on a screen.
Right. I see what you're saying.
It's a definite start, though.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely help.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we should be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
if
I think too much is pushed under the rug because of the amount of money he's making it. And I'll go back to the thing about talking about federally regulating pornography in the industry and the government handling that. That would only corrupt the system that much worse, I think. Because
Isn't
now
that being done in England?
I don't know. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I think that is a thing.
Yeah, there was a major backlash with it too.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what worries me about porn. I think when you start tampering with porn,
Yeah.
like I mean, cigarettes. It over time people change their minds, but people have began to think that porn is absolutely a right and you shouldn't be judged for it, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. And
Until you speak to somebody who comes out of that industry and says you need to look at it from a different point of view.
yeah, well, and I think that would help. But I don't think it would help enough because when people want it, they want it.
No, and I agree. You're always going to have people that go to it. It's the human nature of us. I mean, we continually say it that people at their core are going to do things that are technically not morally right. But when you hear people, and I'll promote, I think it was one of the first Bad Christian episodes, they had Brittany Ruiz on it, who was a former porn star, and she talks about, and Craig Gross, who is immersed into that scene with Triple X Church, who is out there trying to help those come out of the porn industry, and he's always consistently working with these guys and these ladies in that industry, and he sees the realness of it and sees what's going on, and he's like, it's not what you think. All this over glamorized and things that are so fake. And I think that's the thing that, if we could find a way to make it personal, if we could find a way to make it seem real and the hardship of it, because even I know it's like, if I trickle down that road where I'm starting to go, okay, I'm having one of those off days and I see something, I start clicking down that road. Some of the things that come in my mind, I think about those people that I heard who were in the porn industry, and I think about the sex trafficking and things of that nature. That starts to click in my mind, and I'm like, I can't, outside the fact that I shouldn't be doing it because of morally and my wife and things like that, but it's also clicks into my mind where it's like, but I think about all these people now, not just myself, but everybody that it affects, that it goes way beyond that, and I'm like, I don't want to promote that, and I don't want to give more revenue to that anymore either, because now it's more, see, that's my thing, where you think it's disconnected and personal. I think it makes it more personal when you can find a way to make it more personal and promote it to people in a different way than just, a very impersonal situation.
I was just looking at talking about UK regulating things, and it's
Yeah, I have that list here.
and it's basically what Chris was kind of saying, like that filter, like kind of being put on. It's basically how it would look. I guess how it would look in America, and they just regulated like certain genres and
Certain acts that are occurring in porn, like that especially have to do with violence and things like that, they are banned.
Yeah, but can they? It is only the sites that are banned in the UK. But what if it's a outside the country website?
They can't block it if it's outside the country. It says here it's only for things produced in the UK.
And see, that's my thing. You're never going to be able to break the other countries that are doing it, that don't care, that are getting like buttloads of revenue from it.
Yeah.
Well, and again,
But it's a start.
Well, it's kind of a start, but at the same time, I mean, there's a large group of people who will openly fight against any restriction.
Oh, exactly.
Because
Whether they're for it or not.
Right.
It's just
absolutely.
because it's censorship and it's taking away a freedom, they're gonna balk at it.
Start taking their shirts off and stuff. Come on.
Waving some kind of flag.
Put your Brian. Come on.
Ron's not saying that. I don't know. I just thought it was something I was thinking about pornography we didn't really get into because we talked about the negative effects of it and things like that, and why we shouldn't do it. But we never talked about anything that really pointed out. Is there something we can do to raise more awareness from it? And hey, we're on a show right now. I mean, I know a lot of people don't listen to us, but hey, we're on a show. We can talk about it a little bit. I mean, we're going to finish up this series. I think it's something positive just to say, look, I know we all at some point look at porn, and we may all at some point look at porn again, but I think it's important to kind of if you're a person of rational, logical reasoning, put this in the back of your mind. It's not all good stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Matter of fact, none of it's really good, but it's some of it is very dark and it's very dangerous, and you got to think about that. Be safe with whatever you're doing, and have some good common sense when you're doing it. I mean, we're not going to stop everybody. Kind of like when we was talking about sex, being abstinent. We know, everybody's not going to be abstinent. So if you're going to have sex,
Be safe.
wrap it up.
Yeah, be safe.
Be safe. So if you absolutely got to go look at porn, which I don't want you to, get X3 Watch. Put it on your computer. Block yourself from it. Help yourself. We're sponsoring somebody that doesn't sponsor us. But it works though. I've used it, and it really helps. If you think you have a problem with porn, man, go check out Triple X Church and X3 Watch. Or Covenant Eyes if you're like a conservative Christian. You don't want to be known with that Triple X Church because they got Triple X in their name, which I don't know.
That was a good movie.
The first one was.
Hey, Ice Cube tried. He tried.
It wasn't good enough. We talked about pornography a bit and about some deterrents and things of that nature, and whether they work or not, I don't know. There were some good points brought up. We had a little break nobody knows about, but
They do now.
They do now. I told them. And I almost thought tonight would be a night that we just record and I just wouldn't edit any of it. That's not going to happen now.
You're welcome.
But something I was thinking about because of there's a show called Transparent, and Jeffrey Tambor is the lead role on that. And if you don't know who that is, that's the dad from Arrested Development. So if you don't know what Arrested Development is, you are like basically lived in a hole, or a hole or you lived in a place that's no fun. But it's basically, it's about transgendered parent, and it won like 5 Emmys last night. And I just noticed it because it was a really big thing on Twitter today. And I just thought it'd be a good point to bring up because we really didn't talk a lot about transgendered people or the community in episode, couple episodes ago when we talked about gender identification. I think it was 2 episodes
38.
ago. 38. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting because they're talking about how it's really going to bring awareness to our country about the transgendered community, and how that it's not some weird, and I guess.
Well, it's like you said, it's being turned into a community, and not just that one weird person in the town or that one weird person that we know at college or something like that. Like, it's a group. They think of it more than just that one person. Now it's a community,
right? And it's not just the weird person, but it is a actual person.
Yeah.
We're not labeling them with this negative adjective or the stereotype.
Yeah, and they stop calling them it's and stuff like that.
Because they're still people.
Yep.
Just. They're real people, and they're going through something, and they're, whether you agree with their lifestyle or not, they're still a human being, and I think, is this a point where, like, this show, where it's going to be one of those things where, okay, now, I kind of feel like, I know it sounds weird to say this, but like when Will and Grace hit, network television, and
It's been a long time, man.
No, it's been a long time, but I want you to think about when it came out and what it promoted. And
I was like 6.
Yeah. But look what it did for the gay and lesbian community, like how it really put them out there in more of a cultural relevant setting where it was a very, very taboo thing, which is still technically a taboo thing today in the world, but not like then, not like when that show came out with the, the craziness that, the conservative Christians got on board. Will and Grace, we're going to boycott it, but yet most of them were at home watching it because it was so daggone funny, because I watched it.
So it was pretty funny.
But is it going to be is it one of those times where we're going to see that happen again? That we will see, because of media, television, that something's going to be brought to light to make it a little less taboo, so to speak.
There's already 2 shows out there that I can think of, Dan. Now, there's one you just brought up, Transparent, and Orange is the New Black, because it has Laverne Cox in it.
Right.
That's true.
And her twin brother, who plays her before her, what is it? Change, alteration? What's the word that is PC here? Transformation?
Sex change.
There you go.
Cool. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying. But do you think? And I'm sitting here thinking, what's the better question to ask? But okay, what are you going to say, Keith?
I was just going to say yes and no. Yes, that it will have an effect like that. It will have an effect that makes it not as taboo, but not nearly to the extent I think is, let's say, Will and Grace or what it's done with the homosexual community. Because, quite frankly, the transgender community is not nearly as large as the homosexual community.
No, you're right.
I mean, it's always the forgotten one. When people say LBGT, no one really thinks about T very much. They do, but not as much as LB and G.
Yeah.
Sounds like a weird BLT.
Yeah, sorry.
And I mean, I could see things changing and going in a more positive direction that way. But one thing we have to realize about the transgender community is that is one of the most targeted communities, especially when it comes to violence in our society today. And I just have pulled up a few statistics right here. Is that the majority of the victims of hate violence homicides in 2013 were transgender women at 72%. Transgender people are more likely to experience police violence and physical violence from law enforcement. They're 3.7 times more likely. And also they're 6 times, transgender people of color are 6 times more likely to experience police violence. And it just gets worse for transgender women of color, is for the worst rates of violence.
Okay, so let's be specific when you say transgendered woman.
Yeah.
That was somebody who went from being a man to a woman.
Yes, I believe.
Okay, because that would. I'm not trying to be facetious, but it would be
have to be clear.
It would be very confusing if you didn't, be very clear in what we were saying there, because it's like, was that a woman who changed to a man or a man to a woman? It's just one of those things. And
I believe the statistics follow what your final transition is.
Yeah, I think the proper and politically correct way would be to refer to the person after the change.
In their end state.
Okay, all right, because that's one of those things. It's like you don't know, and to say that
it's not a bad question.
We had Peyton Jones on in episode 20. Daggone 20 episodes ago. That is crazy. But 20 episodes ago when we had Peyton Jones on, and he was talking about, and we spoke to him about, he had a transgender prostitute in his church and goes to his church, to a church he helped plant in Long Beach, California. And we talked about the issue where he said a woman came out of the bathroom, flipping out because she was in the bathroom with her. The transgender lady was in the bathroom with her. And I guess this was a pre-op, person. And he was like, she's like, you got to go in there and throw them out and get them out and throw them out of the church and this, that, and the other. And just, like losing it. And on the podcast that I listened to where he actually spoke about this in detail, he's like, he told her, no, I'm not going to do that. And he said he waited. When she came out, he had a nice, good long talk with her and told him, his thoughts and opinions about it, and wasn't trying to be, condemning to her at all, which he wasn't. But he's like, you got to think about the mentality, and that's one of those things. It's like because that woman lost her mind about it, and I can understand, you give her a little leeway,
It's new for her.
yeah, and it may have freaked her out. I don't know, but there's a way we have to start approaching people because they're still people, and in this community that, like Keith says, it's a very small group, and then we hear it's a very targeted group. We have to think. We have to think about how we interact and converse with people who are transgender, and what does that look like?
I was at work a month and a half ago, probably, and I can say his name because I totally asked. We were at work doing regular stuff like weed eating or whatever, and before she had technically walked up, my coworkers were already pointing her out and making comments and things of that nature and whatever about here comes whatever, and making jokes and stuff like that. And it, I laughed, and it made me feel absolutely terrible because I was like, whoa. It made me step back for a second or whatever. And so in response to me laughing, on my break, I went and found her because she was just walking down Main Street, and the way I went about starting the conversation was kind of an apology, and we're talking about how do we approach and talk and have relationships or friendships with these people, with them. The way I went about it was apologizing first for laughing and for the comments that my coworkers, had said. And he was like, "Well, I really didn't hear them." And I was like, "Yeah, but I know you deal with that, and I know that's something you probably have to deal with." And just the acceptingness after me apologizing and being not like saying, "Hey, I'm cool with whatever you're doing," and not just throwing it out there, but just like my body language and how I talked to him, and the way I just was not being weird. I was just acting like this was a normal person in front of me. Made the conversation go as if like it was. It was just two people talking. And, just the openness to what I was saying. Like, I was just throwing out some stuff and letting him know why I was not making jokes and why I felt bad. And I was like, it has to do with a conviction. And I told him I'm not trying to, slap down with the Bible or anything like that. I'm just letting you know. And, he said that there was a lot of acceptance. He accepted my apology and was very grateful just for the talk itself.
Right.
Not necessarily the apology, but just the fact that I made a point to make him a friend.
Well, I think that's.
But no, to answer your question, we should go about it in a way of, we shouldn't just act like we need to walk on eggshells when we go up to them. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to be normal.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I think with everything that we say, and I think the things that we try to promote, is that we shouldn't look at the differences of people. I think that goes back to a long time ago, Keith, when we were talking about, it was like, how do we love people that are different, but not say we're loving you because you're different. Just because you're different, we're still going to love you. We're going to love you in spite of your differences. But the way we do that, I think we said a long time ago, was we look at them as a human being, as a person, and we're loving them because technically they were a human being. Human being.
Thanks, Forrest.
You're welcome. But they're
technically.
But they're a human being that was, from our perspective, Christian worldview, a human being created by God. So whether we like it or not, no matter the decisions that they made, they were created in that image.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just got to respect everybody. I mean, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I respect any human being you come in contact with, no matter who they are or what they are. What are you doing over there?
That's really hard to do.
It's
That's
hard.
very difficult to do.
Because think about it.
It's hard, but Is that not what we're called to do?
Yeah,
I would say we're called to love everyone, not necessarily respect everyone.
Well, treat them with respect.
Okay, I can treat someone with respect, but not necessarily respect them. I can go.
Okay,
I can get behind
okay.
that idea.
I'll get you there, but
Well, you got a point, Keith. I think initially you can treat people with respect. You can respect them for who they are because you don't know them. Mm-hmm. I think people can lose their respect. You can lose respect for people by the way they act. Yeah. I don't think it negates the love that we have for them, but and respect may be a word that we're loosely defining here too.
Yeah, I think it is because I think it can mean 2 or 3 different things.
Exactly.
Here. When I'm referring to it, I mean a very baseline level of respect. I mean, I think you've got, from my perspective, I want to be very, very sensitive to that. Yeah, from my perspective, I think you have to respect everybody. I mean, at a baseline level, you have to treat them with respect, and I don't care who that is. I mean, literally everyone in the world.
By that, do you mean respect the fact that they're a human being alongside you on this planet?
Yes.
Okay, I can get behind.
Well, but he said baseline. I mean, because there's people that. Well, I'll just say this: there's going to be people that you run to in your life that just treat you very crappy, and you don't want to respect them for who they are.
But just like Mr. Hoo-Ha in the comments.
Yeah.
To that thing.
But see,
there was no respect. If he would have went about it starting off with respect, we would have totally taken that comment a completely different direction.
Right, but
we wouldn't have read it.
There's a flip side to that, though.
Yeah.
We should treat the guy that commented with respect too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Hoo-Ha.
Well, but it's okay. Well, let's do the Jesus juke on it then. Okay.
I liked how 3 of us did the literal juke.
I really don't understand though. What is the Jesus juke?
Okay, you ready for this? If Jesus was to, let's just say, instead of coming 2,000 years ago, and he did his whole ministry then, okay?
Okay.
And we talk about baseline respect,
okay,
and how you deal with people, okay? And Jesus decided, and God decided, this was the time that he was going to be born, and these were the years he's going to make his ministry time, since we're speaking from a Christian perspective. Okay. Who are the people he's going to be reaching to, and who is the people he's going to be blasting like he did in, well, the way the Gospels portrayed it?
Depends on where he lives. Serious question. I mean, that's serious. That's
America.
That's legit. Okay, if he lives in the United States, he's going to be reaching out to the... that's tough. Probably the disassociated people, the greater atheist community. Well, actually, I don't know about that. Because in his ministry, a lot of times it wasn't necessarily the people that were directly opposite him that he approached. It was more of the people who were sort of caught up in sin where they were in that community. The people he would be blasting, that's tough because he didn't blast the greater Jewish church. He blasted a very small part of the greater Jewish community.
You're right.
Probably the more misguided church leaders.
Okay, let me make it easy.
It's not easy though. It's not easy.
So I think that, and this is a total hypothetical situation. So it is
very hypothetical.
Yeah. So to me, what I would see is Jesus would be reaching out, just like to the people he did before, to the prostitutes, to the widows, to in our society, to the gay and lesbian community, to those who are disenfranchised, those who are persecuted because they're different or felt like they're not loved. And I think that who he would be blasting would be either people on the far right who think that the self-righteous people who think that because of their good deeds that they are better and more righteous than other people, or the people on the far left who think that they know better than the people on the far right.
Not a mic drop, but I do like what you said, because I think there's the key words. I think the two key words that we're missing there is that you're right, Keith. He didn't blast the greater Jewish church, but Justin mentioned the key word is that he went after the self-righteous, and that he reached out to the broken. And in those two, I think there's groups in the middle that found their way to one side or the other, to the self-righteous or the broken during those times. But for those who recognize those, because think about the people that were at Jesus' feet. They came to a point of brokenness. They realized that, and not everybody does that. Not everybody in their sin realizes that they're broken, because you think about the people that, you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's why I don't necessarily agree with all the people Justin listed out, because the perspective of today, people aren't thinking that they're broken.
But Jesus pointed, but let's think about the lady who was at the well. Did she think she was broken before she spoke with Jesus?
She sure seemed like she...
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know, but
she definitely didn't point out that she thought she wasn't broken.
Right, but
she had no self-righteousness in coming to Jesus.
But isn't
Right.
that the point of the gospel, to bring dead people to life,
Yeah.
and to show the broken that they are indeed broken?
yeah, and that's the thing. I think when I think about the woman at the well, I think about a woman who was there to get water, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, there's a man who asked her, a Jewish man, who asked a Samaritan woman for water. So the first thing he did was break a wall that she never thought would be crossed, okay? And now she's having a conversation with a Jewish man, a Samaritan woman, that's not supposed to be happening, okay? Now, at this point, we don't know whether she thought she was broken or not. But obviously, he broke a barrier that helped her be more vulnerable with him in that instance, because he did something that was totally countercultural, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay. So in that moment when he's speaking to her, and now he's like, well, your husband, well, I don't have a husband. Well, yeah, I know you don't have a husband. Matter of fact, 5 guys, and the one you're living with now is not your husband. And in that moment, whether we know she was broken or not, the way we read the gospel, right? We see this play take part where she's like, he sees who I am. He knows what I'm going through. And now and that last layer of vulnerability is broken, where she can be totally honest with herself and him in that moment.
Right.
So whether she knew she was broken or not, he brought her brokenness to the forefront through treating her as who she was.
That's true. But I want to point out the fact that the Samaritan woman, the woman at the well, what she was involved in sinfully was condemned in her culture too.
No, I know.
It's not something that was celebrated by her culture.
No, you're right, but I'm not. But what I'm saying is that sometimes you have to start with just treating that person as a person to let them see that brokenness.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Most time
And
we treat them with such condemnation that we put them on the defensive, which gives them more stance to stand in their place so they won't identify themselves as broken. I am right. I'm doing this, and I'm not calling anybody broken or not right or nothing. That's your opinion. But if you have an opinion on what looks like broken and what's sin, and you want to approach them, the last thing you need to do is blast them.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's one thing I wanted to make clear with something I said earlier, is that the point of the gospel isn't to merely say that you are broken and for you to realize that you're broken. The point of the gospel is to restore and to redeem you and to show you who you truly are and who you were created to be. And so that's something I wanted to make clear when I was speaking very hastily, and there was a bunch of us going back and forth that I didn't want that to be the main point of what I was trying to say.
Well, if we weren't a Christian podcast before.
Yeah.
But, I know we tried to kind of recap the sex series, and we went around about, and I just think that when we talk about Jesus, if he was here today, and I'm just going to say, there's way more people today than there were in his time.
Absolutely.
There's a way more diverse group of people in America than there was in Israel at that time. But I still think it boils down to those two types of people: those who are broken and will be vulnerable to that brokenness, and those who are self-righteous.
Well, I think you bring up a good point with the second thing that you said, the very second thing that you said. It was the people that realized they were broken that he actually was able to really speak to.
Yeah, and you're right.
And there's very few people in the United States these days. Very few.
I think that
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I was going to say
okay.
that I think that just in my experience with people, when you can break through that first layer, and I think that's what Jesus did with people. And whether you believe he was real or not, the way I see the gospel is Jesus did something by breaking that first wall of vulnerability, that once he got through there, because you can't be self-righteous and break through it. We know that. We saw that with the guy who asked him, what should I do? And he's like, well, sell it all and give it to the poor. And he's like, screw this, and walked off. I mean, of course, he probably didn't actually say that, but but the point is if you have this bone of self-righteousness, you're not going to leave it. But if you can break that first layer of vulnerability, if you can get through there, then I think that's what he did. That would happen more and more and more with people, and you see that more and more with people. But because people are defensive, because people get put on the defense so much, that's why we think there's less people who will admit to their brokenness, because they're approached in a very condemning way. I mean, think about it. If we look at the overall nature of Christianity in today's culture, and I'm not saying it's the majority, but it's what's seen the most. What is the message that we're promoting? Honestly,
say that again.
I'm not saying it's the majority of Christians and churches in the country doing this, but if we look at what mainstream media is producing, I'm not saying it's true or not. What is the image that Christianity has been given?
It's been given self-righteousness primarily.
Exactly.
But that goes along with the theme of America. That's what we're built around, is self-righteousness.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Outside the church, especially, both inside and outside the church, we're built around being our own saviors.
Right, and I saw a lot of that in the Roman Empire, and the Jewish council and courts and churches and or not churches, but the synagogues and the temples and things like that. That there was that, but when Jesus promoted that message of that. I'm here for you, and this is what it's all about. If the church promoted a bigger message and that was able to be seen more, I think we'd have more walls break down.
I agree with that. I think we would have more walls breaking down, but I think there's a big reason that Jesus did not come along in this day and age, and that's because he would not have made the headway that he made in this day and age.
That's
a bold ass statement.
That is a podcast in itself.
Okay.
Wow.
Let me say that the divinity of Jesus would lend himself to accomplishing what he needed to accomplish, whatever and whenever the time is. But I think it would have been much more difficult.
I'm not balking at your statement. I think it's a great statement. I think it's a bold statement, like Justin said, but that is something that there is no way we have time to dig into today, and that is definitely going to be another podcast at some point, because I would love to explore that.
That would be fun.
I would love to explore that.
Yeah.
But man, I don't even know why I went there. I just had to. But I just think that if we spend a little bit more time, like we was talking about the transgender community, even people who are addicted to pornography, those who are doing the wrong and the sexual abuse, those who are having issues understanding what sex is in and out of marriage and all those things. I mean, if we get down to it, the one thing we need to do as people, Christian or not, is to understand how to live with those people, treat those people. Like you said, Keith, I think we need to treat all those people with respect. And in a certain amount of respect, as that you're a human being and I'm a human being. And that we share this same oxygen, and we need to learn how to live together with an aptitude of love and like you said, respect. Mm-hmm. And how do we go about that? And that's just
and I think one of the most important things and one of the most comforting things that we can do is not necessarily like, okay, so how can we live with people who are, addicted to sex or addicted to pornography, mm-hmm. or, have been victims or perpetrators of sexual abuse or whatever. I think one of the most comforting and one of the best things that we can do is say, me too. Me too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And that I'm in the same position you are, that, I'm no better than you, and that I do these same things, and let's work on this together, and let's be constructive and talk to each other and be able to have these conversations with one another, because guess what? Me too.
I think that's a good way to cure the problem of self-righteousness too.
Yeah.
Because I think if we can come down to the place where that I am no better than you are, and honestly, I'm no worse than you are either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
yeah.
this is a level playing field.
Yeah, because when you said that, what do you think of? What does most of Christianity kind of seem of? And I was thinking of that we just hate sin. Yeah. Like we just hate. There's a lot of hate, and of course the self-righteousness too. But I mean, if we could both of those things dissipate.
Well, see, I like what you said there at the very front of that, Ryan. But see, I don't think that hating sin is the problem. Hating sin, I think, should be the solution, because when you hate sin and you realize,
we identify the people, we're like,
Well,
that's a sinner, and then we
what? But no,
we gotta be
but no,
careful, man.
see,
We gotta be careful.
But you gotta think about it. If you honestly hate sin and you realize who you are, then you're gonna humble yourself, because you realize
That's a good point.
I am no greater than anyone else.
That's
my
a good
least
point.
sin is just as bad as the greatest sin of someone else.
And I, you're right, Ron. We can't identify a person with sin, but if we do identify people with sin, we first have to identify ourselves with it. And I think that's what Keith is probably getting across, is that brings us to a more humble level of dealing with people.
But that's just like, it's just so easy. I mean, majority of Christianity, that's the label we put on them. It's,
Yeah.
whatever your main sin is, that's you. You're a.
But I think that's where it goes back to what Justin was saying, was me too, that, I can see that you do these things. Or, okay, so I'm a Christian and I don't believe that homosexuality is right. I believe it's a sin, okay? So you say that. So you meet a person who's gay or lesbian. Do you treat them like a sinner, or do you go, okay, if I do believe that's a sin, they have sin, but then again, I got to think I have sin too. And that's the point where I think, instead of coming across as a condemning person, you come across as a person who goes, I really respect you as a human being, because we are in the same boat.
Absolutely, because if you say, okay, they're a homosexual, they're an adulterer, they're a thief, then you've got to look at yourself and say, I'm a liar, I'm a slanderer, I'm a luster, I'm all of these things.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when you look at when you look at a person and say, okay, that's a person, that's a human being, you can look at yourself and say, I'm a human being. Mm-hmm. Then you are on the even playing field.
Yeah, exactly. But when you, I mean, we all do it. I mean, we all are at fault for doing that very thing. I mean, we're all at fault for trying to pull the splinter instead of pulling the log.
Yeah.
But because you brought that up a couple episodes ago, Chris.
Oh, I thought you were trying to point at me for a specific thing that I've done recently. Like, wait, what did I do?
Quit trying to pull that splinter on it.
Yeah. But no, I'm just saying that it's, I mean, wow, the Bible speaks, I mean, for Christians, let's just speak towards Christians. Bible speaks to so many things that we are supposed to be living by, and that would probably help us move and advance the gospel even more. But we're so dead set on, like Ron said, hating the sin so much that we can't see our own sin. We hate their, I think the better statement, Ron, is that we hate their sin.
Yeah.
Not that we just hate sin, but we're hating on their sin.
I don't even think that's the problem. I don't think hating their sin is the problem. I think hating them is the problem.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're doing.
And you're right. And we use their sin as a leeway to
As a way of justifying.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making. Hating their sin, it literally identifies them with their sin and then hating them.
But you're
using it. I just hate the sin, not the sinner.
Yeah. It doesn't really look like that when you're beating up all the transgenders.
Well, I mean, you got a point.
Come on, I'm serious.
Well, I don't even know if we recapped or wrapped up anything, but we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about pornography issues. We talked about, marriage again. We talked about a lot of here and there tonight in Meat and Potatoes, and all it was just an episode of us just winging it. We needed that episode. Not that we just don't do it all the time. But this was the Meat and Potatoes tonight. I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back in a minute because we're going to turn it over to Keith, and I just don't know what's going to happen. We'll be back in a second.
I've never slept so sound, so silent, with images of broken dreams and broken things, and I ask of you now, is please do not forget me, and please do not regret me. I'll never meant to lie. No, I never meant to lie. Going back to the
And welcome back.
Oh yeah.
That was Envoy with Ghost. Or Paramore. We don't know.
So that is a band that I recommend, and I think it's pronounced Envoy. It's ENVOI, and the song is
Envoy.
Ghosts, and they have, I think, one EP out so far, and it's really, really good, and it does have the very kind of old school Paramore-ish vibe,
Back when
and so
Paramore was
I
good.
absolutely love it.
Unpopular opinion.
They're still
No,
good.
they're not.
Well, I
Snob.
want to say this. When we played the music, sometimes I turn the mics down, sometimes I don't. But the greatest thing is watching Justin lip sync to it with the delay, because everything he's singing is like a second behind what we're hearing.
Way more than
So it's like you paid to see a really bad concert, and the person's trying to lip sync to their own music, but they're just way off.
It was great.
But to me, I was perfect.
To you was perfect. That's how it always is with you, Justin.
Exactly.
So tonight we're going to get in story time with Keith. It's going to be interesting. We don't know where he's going tonight, but I must say that I enjoy making sound bites. And just a little recap from last week. We want to hear.
De Bandera del Muchacho se la dio con dos amigos. I.
And if you can't tell, that was a sound bite from last week. I laughed through that whole story.
So if you haven't heard it yet, go back to last week's episode and listen to the end, because it's fantastic.
Yeah, if you want to skip the depressing parts, go ahead. Just go skip to the end and listen to Keith read a story about the Macarena.
I don't know why you guys are laughing. I thought it was pretty good.
Have you listened to the episode?
You think I listen to this podcast?
Okay, Keith. So tonight, what do you have?
All right, tonight I have a wonderful story from HuffPost, aka the Huffington Post. Headline: Pooping burglary suspect caught brown-handed. Tagline: Police said his soiled pants matched the defecation on the bar floor.
What? Wait, hold on, back up.
He robbed the bar and pooped on the floor?
I'm getting to that.
There's so many questions in the tagline.
A Florida man suspected of breaking into a bar to steal alcohol and defecating on the floor has been allegedly caught with his pants down. I love how they say he's been allegedly caught. We don't know if he's been caught, but he's allegedly been caught.
I think the allegedly kind of noted that his pants were down. Allegedly his pants were down
See,
when I
they
caught
need
him.
to learn English then. That's not what
It's
that means.
Huffington Post.
No, true story. It's not real journalism. Oh, okay. Collier County deputies responded to a 911 call Tuesday evening about a possible burglary at Joey D's, an East Naples restaurant. Deputies investigating the scene noted thousands of dollars in damage to computers, monitors, and the cash register. So did he defecate on them? Is that how they got damaged?
That's a lot of defecation
Right?
on the floor.
He could have just saved up and planned this ahead of time.
Yeah. What did he eat to get that much?
Chipotle.
I can attest to that.
I think we all can.
There was also human feces on the bar floor, WINK TV reports. A large bottle of Sambuca was next to the poop, according to the Naples Herald.
That'll do it.
Outside the bar, police found the man suspected of being the pooping perp. Robert Predmore, 60, was unconscious and smelled of alcohol and feces. Officers noticed his pants were soiled with feces and put 2 and number 2 together, according to the police report, though not expressed in that manner. Police claim they found a backpack belonging to Predmore containing several prescription pill bottles and a clear plastic baggie with marijuana inside. Predmore was taken to Naples Community Hospital. He was later booked on charges of burglary, criminal mischief, possession of marijuana, and remains in the Collier County Jail on $12,000 bond.
All right, I just want to start off by saying they start this article off like, oh yeah, they caught the guy. He was outside the bar still pooping. He didn't even get that far.
Well,
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
yep, that just
Praise be. Praise be.
Saying that as he walks out of the bar. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Go have me in the whatever county jail. I'll be pooping there.
For me, it's like, where do we come up with this stuff at?
I have to admit, when he said 60 years old, I imagine my dad doing this. It made it so much better.
So we rob a bar and we poop on the floor. Obviously, he pooped in more than one place because he said he also pooped on the floor, unless the Huffington Post's English is just that bad.
It's pretty awful.
I'll tell you
Not
what,
much
though.
journalistic integrity, but that's okay.
Great
It's funny.
police work, though. Great
Right.
police work. We found this guy with his pants down. It smelled like alcohol and poop.
We allegedly caught this guy.
Had to be him.
Tell you what,
The guy
though.
with his pants down, it smelled like poop and alcohol.
I don't know about you guys, but Sambuca will make you poop.
Never had it.
Don't try it. It's like black licorice and 90% alcohol.
That's gross.
It's gasoline licorice.
With fiber.
You gotta get the licorice in there somehow.
Oh my goodness gracious! So that was just an interesting article,
Story time with Keith.
and we can all thank my wife for that.
Yes. She brings us all the poop stories.
Yeah, she really does. She allows me to come
Literal
to
poop,
this podcast.
literal poop stories, not like poopy stories that are just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I like that better. Boom, boom.
Pow pow. Bang
Poop.
bang bang.
I was waiting for that.
He was waiting for that. Were you waiting for this, Justin?
Bueller.
Of course.
Bueller.
Every week.
Well, we 40 episodes. Justin, for me and you, it has been a long process. It's only 40. We're still moving. I'm sure 50 will be bigger. I don't know, maybe, if we can make it there. But appreciate everybody helping out on this show. Appreciate Chris giving us a place to record. Appreciate everybody coming aboard and joining us and just being very, very unprofessional on the podcast.
Do it at work. Might as well do it in my home.
And we also appreciate everyone who does listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for giving us crazy people a chance. For listening to us for I don't know how many hours on end. If you've listened to one episode, then thank goodness you've only listened to 2 hours of us. But if you've listened to more, then God bless you, hun. But
there it is.
But we really do appreciate you and all the feedback you guys give us, and that you guys are awesome, and just know that we love you and we care about you, and we want to hear more from you. So
Absolutely. And go onto the Facebook page and share this episode. Go and say, I liked it, and share it. Now, if you don't like it, don't share it. That's fine
tell
with
us
us.
you didn't like it.
Yeah, tell us you didn't like it. Say that
And why?
we just well, I don't know. Maybe you just don't like Justin. I can understand.
that's totally understandable. There are many times I don't like myself.
There's a reason we leave them in Boone.
But saying all that, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. We hope that you've enjoyed this series. We're going to try another series here come up soon. Stay tuned. I think the next one will be a little bit more in depth and maybe more intelligent than this one was.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot more, I guess, not necessarily thoughtful, but there's going to be a lot more ideas, and I feel like there are going to be a lot more dissension in the upcoming series. A lot of different...
I feel Keith and Justin are going to have a lot of fights.
What are we talking about?
oh, yeah.
The next series that is coming up,
What is that?
it's Heaven and Hell.
Oh, okay.
And Keith was never saw again. Seen again.
He unsubscribed.
Well, and saying all that, folks, we always want to remind you that people are not projects. They're people just like you and me. So love them like you love yourself. And I'll see you for episode 41.
Thank you for listening to the Forgetting Walls podcast. If you're subscribing to us on iTunes, leave us a rating to help us spread the word about this podcast. Remember, the only way this works is if you share your story. So be sure to visit the website and leave us a comment at forgettingwalls.com, or find us on Twitter at forgettingwalls and facebook.com/forgettingwalls.
Peace!
I find your lack of faith disturbing.